You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Tide.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. It's Travis Currah and Brazilian Tie. Last week, tales of Brazilian Tie heading home in Rocky Mountain blizzards. How was the trek back to work this week?
The first hour and a bit was terrible.
Oh, the first part.
yeah, leaving Lloyd in the snow and all that crap. And then once I hit Vegreville, it was clear sailing until, I don't know, like an hour out of Prince George, and I couldn't see out of my headlight or because of my headlights. I ran out of washer fluid. I stopped in McBride with the full intention of buying washer fluid, and all I did was buy two. And all I did was buy 2 Cokes.
That stuff is currency when there's melty conditions and messy snow and all that. Once you're out of the washer fluid, you might as well have nothing.
Yeah, and I had to make it to Prince George because I was getting fed, so I had to get there.
Of course, you had to go there. There, you've been there. What, Stephen Carey's place, right?
Yeah.
What did Carey make? I'm curious because if you were coming over, I'd probably get, I don't know,
bread,
pepperoni
butter,
and bacon pizza pops and
chicken. Burn the roof of my mouth again. I told that story last night, how I made it like your fault because I was so drunk and I had no idea what was happening. She made Greek meatballs and orzo and a Greek salad, but I'm like, well, I'm not going to eat the salad. She's like, yeah, Steve doesn't eat salad either, so it's fine.
I might have to go on a road trip to PG one of these days. I was at a wedding.
Hopefully you like dogs, because Mickey will not leave you alone.
Dogs, they're cool as long as I can trust them. If they're trustworthy, they're cool.
They'll slobber all over you. Oh.
We were at a wedding. Leanne, now Jackson, getting married in Vegreville. Growing up in Lloydminster, I'd never had a picture with the giant Pysanka, the large Easter egg, until this moment. So, crossing
you call
yourself
one off the
a
Ukrainian
list. This episode of Two and Out is
you gotta go to Mondaire and get a picture of the sausage now.
Yeah, I've had that one. The Well Endowed podcast by the Edmonton Community Foundation. It's hosted and produced by Andrew Paul and Lisa Pruden, and it explores the impact of passionate people who are working to make Edmonton a strong, vibrant city to live in. What the Edmonton Community Foundation does, it helps people create endowment funds, and the podcast tells the stories of how those endowments intersect with the community. The latest episode 134, talks to 2 community leaders from Edmonton that were recognized at the 2022 Rise Awards. And the Rise Awards are presented by the Edmonton Mennonite Center for Newcomers to recognize immigrant success in Edmonton. So you can subscribe to the Well Endowed podcast and check out that latest episode at thewellendowedpodcast.com. Here we are. The division finals are in the books. We do have a matchup for the 109th Grey Cup in Regina. We will start with the
rematch of 107 and 108, more or less.
Yeah. If you are under the assumption and belief that Hamilton is in fact the same thing as Toronto.
Assumption.
On her YouTube channel, Theodore King with the comment saying that well, Montreal is basically Toronto too, so hey, no, I really caught some flack by saying Bomber fans were classier than Rider fans last week, and
yeah, but it's true.
I'm still hearing that in my mentions.
There's a trick to that.
Oh, mute?
Yeah.
I will never mute you if you're tweeting me and looking for engagement. But if you do text me, I will take forever to reply.
You will not. Yeah, it's a joke. An absolute joke.
The Toronto Argonauts.
My dad will text me back before you do.
Beating the Montreal Alouettes 34-27. Look, both of these games were close. Both of them were one-score games. And here in Toronto, they got off to a fast start. AJ Ouellette, Andrew Harris running the ball. And, I mean, right off the top, they said Brandon Banks was going to get involved into the return game. He's, 5 yards back in his end zone. You think he's going to give up the single. He picks it up and he returns it 31 yards. So it had Toronto off to a pretty intense start. They were fired up early.
Yeah, and I mean, you see that and you're like, okay, whatever. Take the ball at, what would it be, your 30? Or 25 or whatever it is. You know, you're down one, whatever. It shouldn't matter in the big scheme of things. But when you have a guy like Brandon Banks or even a guy like Janarian Grant, who we saw in the West Final, when you have those playmakers that are able to do that, it's hard to be mad at them. It's early in the game. It's it kind of feels inconsequential. But I mean, when you look at it, it's like, man, that could have went real bad.
AJ Ouellette ended up having a nice day. He had over 6 yards of carry, 6 carries for 38 yards, but he had 2 catches for 53 yards, and one of them, was that 46-yarder on the first drive. And we already talked about Brandon Banks, and today was kind of an adventure for him, including that first drive where it looked like it should have been a no-doubter catch, but he ends up bobbling it. This is 5 minutes into the game. It comes down, it hits his legs, and somehow it stayed off the turf.
Yeah.
But we're 5 minutes into the game here. Ryan Dinwiddie is using his challenge already.
Dinwiddie challenged that? Or did Machocha challenge that?
Sorry. Machocha's challenging that. Yeah,
that's dumb. That is dumb. And you hear the argument that we got in the group chat was to kill momentum. You're down a score. If they are able to convert from first and goal, like, what momentum? Like, you can't use your challenge on that. It's you got lucky. You didn't really get bit by it too bad, just because there was nothing really egregious that needed to be challenged later. But you don't know that 5 minutes into the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get these coaches that use their challenge in the first quarter. Even the first half, I don't like that much.
Yeah. So right off the bat, Andrew Harris gets a touchdown, and he is on fire. He is scored his first touchdown for the Argos. In fact, his first touchdown since last year with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We already had an email from Michael Walker at toandout.ca to the mailbag. He goes, I would like to hear Ty's analysis of how Andrew Harris's experience helped him recuperate from his pec injury ahead of schedule.
I have a theory.
Say no more.
He should probably be classified as an import, but
and there were moments early in this game where it kind of looked like Toronto was gonna fall apart here, and they ended up after the first quarter up 14-3, but they were clearly trying to keep the ball away from Chandler Worthy, and it ended up costing them, because that first punt from Jake Haggerty ends up going out of bounds, and it ended up being like a 4-yard punt or something. Like, it was
4-yard net, with the penalty.
Yeah, and then McLeod Bethel Thompson later, he wanted a challenge for another Brandon Banks play. There was one where he caught it kind of falling out of bounds, and look, that's a close call. I wouldn't want to make that call at game speed in the heat of the moment. And there was another one where he was barely out of bounds. Like, it seemed like every single play that went Banks' way was an adventure, close. And it was close. But when McLeod Bethel Thompson wanted Dinwiddie to throw the challenge flag, he didn't. And it honestly looked like they were getting physical on the sideline. He's arguing with the coach on the sidelines, and it looked like they were pushing each other. Like, to me, that's just it's not a winning formula. And we saw it earlier this year with the Argos fighting amongst themselves on the sidelines involving Brandon Banks. But
is a first down or a completed pass in like the first quarter that important that you're willing to lose a challenge? It was called no catch on the field. Like, they got to have have the evidence to overturn it. Like, I just don't understand. These players think that, like, oh, this one's for sure. No, it's not. Like, you only get one if you get it wrong.
Yep. Look,
so why waste it now?
He's a competitor and he's in the heat of the moment. I get it. There was something interesting before the game on TSN during the pregame show that Dave Naylor and Farhan Lalji kind of suggesting that maybe McLeod Bethel Thompson's done with football. Well, now he's in the Grey Cup, so we'll see what happens there. I thought overall he had a pretty good game. They were off on a few of the long throws, but he had a good game. 19-27, 299 yards, 2 touchdowns. Most importantly, he did not have any turnovers here. Yeah. So look, he's a competitor, and it almost feels like almost any other team would have been able to take advantage of a team arguing amongst themselves, but Montreal just wasn't able to take advantage of that at all.
No, and Montreal just kept shooting themselves in the foot. Penalties. In the second quarter there, the ball on a punt, Worthy slips, hyperextends his knee a little bit, ball goes to the end zone, like, and then even as the game wore on, it just seemed every time Montreal could get a little bit of something going, whether it was on offensive defense, they would take a penalty and do something that just, and I don't want to blame Machocha, but it just seemed like he had nothing to do with anybody on the sidelines.
Well, let's look at
he
Toronto's.
Seemed very disengaged.
Toronto's drive chart. Normally, we go over drive charts for bad games.
Yeah, like the Rider games. Yeah.
Toronto was touchdown, punt, touchdown, field goal, and then they held the ball to end the half, and then it goes field goal, touchdown, punt, and then they ended the game. They had the ball there for 4 minutes to kill out the clock there, but Montreal's defense could not get a stop, and everything Toronto did, they were rolling on offense and they were making things happen. Even a short yardage play, Chad Kelly at 2nd and 1, he hits Davaris Daniels for a 46-yard touchdown, and Davaris Daniels the leading receiver for the Argos. 3 catches, 108 yards, and a touchdown. And even McLeod Bethel Thompson missed him on another wide open play. It seems like he has flown under the radar a little bit this season, but he's still a talent, and he can still make you pay, and they showed it in this one.
Yeah, I mean, on that last drive there, the overthrow, I mean, I didn't like that play call. Like, I know you're going for the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
I get that. Just putting it out of reach. But only 3 things happen when you throw the football, and 2 of them are bad. So they end up winning, so it doesn't come back to bite them. That play with Chad Kelly on the short yardage, Montreal just seemed lost. You can see, can't remember who it was, but he was on the outside, and he knows Davaris Daniels is out there. He's looking at the sideline for the play call, doesn't get it, and blitzes.
Yeah.
It was just, like I said, I don't want to speak for Machocha or anything, but he just seemed disengaged and disinterested every time the camera was on him.
Well, and that is the big question for the Alouettes going into this offseason. Who is going to be the coach of the team? And he insists that he is not going to be coaching them in 2023. But there are several people that don't believe that for a second.
I don't know.
There are a lot of names being thrown around. I mean,
Kahari's available.
Yeah, that's a great question. Hey, Machocha gets his guy, and his name is Kahari Jones. Trevor Harris, 25 of 30, 362 yards, and a touchdown. When you just look at those numbers.
And 1 pass from in front of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
I didn't know that play still counted.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, you're right, because Harris, he extends the play, but he tosses it to Keon Julian Grant when he's past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But then there's the forced fumble. Toronto returns it, and they're in pretty good field position. And that was during that whole sequence where they're fighting on the sidelines and all this, the bad punt from Toronto. And then Montreal just cannot take advantage of that. Yeah, that was a very interesting play. But the theme here for Montreal is being unable to finish drives. And 4 for 4 on field goals from Cote, but the long was 35. I think most of them came from inside the 27, including in the second half. There was a 3rd and 2 where I think a lot of people thought they should have went for it. It's easy to say now, but on those 2-yard plays, short yardage in the playoffs, when you're not able to finish drives, at some point, it feels like you got to take a chance. And William Stanbacks had an even 7 yards of carry here, but one was a 52-yarder, which was quite impressive in the third quarter.
We talked about that in the group chat.
Yeah.
Or 6 for 12 or 13 or whatever it was. I'm like, well, it's kind of 5 for 7. If you don't count those, he wasn't as prolific as the stats would suggest. I mean, that one big rush was unreal.
It was.
But in the playoffs, especially with this Toronto team who seemed to come out guns blazing and ready to go, field goals aren't going to win you this football game.
Exactly. Especially on the road, and when the Toronto offense was. Your defense is not getting a stop. It just, when they needed it, they weren't going to get it. And then in the second half, the defense, while they couldn't get a stop, or when they did have opportunities, they took a face masking call. There was a costly offside. There was a pass interference there as well. And that was an ongoing theme for the Montreal Alouettes early this season. The discipline issues, where early on it was pretty bad. And then Machocha takes over, and it was still pretty bad, and it kind of calmed down as the season went on, but some of those plays really bit him in the Eastern Final.
Yeah, you can't give away free yards. I mean, you look at in the fourth quarter. I mean, Montreal's still in the game. They're down 10. Clive Ethel-Thompson looks for DeVaris Daniels, and they get the defensive pass interference. Which, I mean,
it didn't look like it was going to be a completed ball, but he did impede him.
And I'm not arguing that. I'm saying, do you take, is that a good penalty? It's like hauling a guy down to prevent a goal, right? It's an all right penalty to take. I mean, if it's that 50-50 where he's going to catch or not, I'd rather him not catch it.
Yeah.
But and then they make the stop. They don't allow them to get the first down. It works against them.
It did.
Because now they got the long field. It's like, the penalty was kind of a good penalty to take. It worked out, but you didn't give up any points, but you just shot yourself in the foot. Now you got 90 yards to go down the field.
I thought it took them a bit too long to get Geno Lewis really involved in the game. And of course, he had the tough assignment in Jamal Peters with the Argos, one of the best corners on the team, near the league lead in interceptions. But 5 catches, 83 yards for him. The big game here was from the rookie Tyson Philpott of Montreal Alouettes. 8 catches, 8 targets, 127 yards, and a touchdown. And he made a catch late in the game. Actually, he made really nice catches. Does not even look like a rookie. And both Philpotts, I think they've got a bright future in this league. And Tyson had a great year. 2 receivers, I think, went in front of him in the draft this past year, including Samuel Emelis from the Riders. And you don't need to tell Rider fans about how that turned out. I mean, it's only a rookie year, but Philpott looks like he might have been the guy.
Dalton Schoen's rookie year too.
Yeah.
I mean,
that Philpott should have been drafted first off the board there, but what a great game for him. He's the East nominee for the Rookie of the Year against, like you said, Dalton Schoen, so he's in tough there. But
if anybody actually, because I don't know how the voting works, Like, I don't know if you have to vote again once the 2 nominees are done, or if it's just the top vote getters from each.
It's shown.
Division.
It's shown.
If anybody votes for Philpott over Schoen, they're not watching football.
But
it doesn't make any sense why Schoen wouldn't win that award.
Philpott's just going to get better from here on out,
and he's got Eugene Lewis to work with and Jake Whitley. He's got a good group with him to learn from. So the sky's the limit.
It was a quiet game for Jake Winneke. 4 catches, 47 yards, and he had become pretty big in the Als offense during the last couple games here. But there it is. Even Curly Gittins late in the game. He didn't get involved until later for the Argos. He had 9 catches, 9 targets, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Look, the Argos, they had a pretty good game, and they asked McLeod Bethel Thompson, is this a complete effort? And he brings up the missed play to Davaris Daniels.
The sluggo.
Yeah, it's still not quite good enough for him, but they've got one more chance to do it.
Yeah. Not good enough for him. They are trending in the right direction, obviously. Like, it's the right time of year to be getting near the top of your game, or if you're not already there. But, the plays that they missed today, I don't know how many of those you get against a team like the Bombers.
Nope. Those plays have to be made, and that goes without saying. Enoch Mwamba had 7 tackles for the Argos. Dwayne Hendricks had 6 tackles himself and a sack. Chris Edwards had a sack in this one, and Big Sean Oakman also had a sack. But the big one for the Als defense was 0 sacks. 7 a week ago against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. It was such a big factor in the Als winning that game, and they didn't get it. They didn't get the pressure they needed against the Argos, and part of it is that
one of the sacks got called back for a face mask.
Yeah. And the running game that the Argos had, the Als had to be ready for whatever the Argos were going to bring, and everything worked for them. So they have earned their spot into the Grey Cup Championship.
And we haven't even really mentioned Ouellette and Harris, like the 2-headed monster they were today. What was something to watch. Like, it didn't seem to matter who had the ball, and it wasn't like, you see teams that have the tandems where one guy's a receiving back, one guy's the back that's going to get all the handoffs. They were both doing, receiving, blocking, staying in for blocking, rushing the ball. Like, they both had phenomenal days.
That's going to be big in the Grey Cup. In the cold in Regina, we know that Harris is used to that, so his leadership, I think, on that part will be big for the team. 83 yards.
Milt knows what you need to win in cold weather.
Yeah. 83 yards combined between the two backs receiving, and then it was 80 yards even rushing between the two backs. 15 carries there, and they were just getting chunks and chunks of yards at a time. So there it is. McLeod Bethel Thompson in his second playoff start clinches the win. They're going to the Grey Cup, and the Argos have won 6 straight Grey Cup appearances, have not lost a Grey Cup since the Gizmo Williams return in 1987 for Edmonton. What a massive return that was.
Did you write that down, or do you just remember it from the broadcast?
Actually, no, I just know the 87 Grey Cup.
Oh, okay. Is that the one where Dunnigan got knocked out?
Well, I think Dunnigan's been knocked out in a lot of instances.
Okay. Is that the one where he got knocked out and Tracy Ham had to come in?
Oh, maybe.
Was that 87?
The two and out fact
Mike
checker will, yeah, exactly. Will get to us here in 3 weeks, and then we will know exactly what happened there. And hey,
you'll send me a text on Boxing Day.
We gotta mention Jagarrett Davis. 6
in a row.
Straight Grey Cup appearance, whether he's with Calgary, whether he's with Hamilton, whether he's with Toronto. All he's ever known in his CFL career is playing in every game, including the Grey Cup. That's an incredible run.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Cutler did it. when the then the Eskimos won 5 in a row, but they also lost to Montreal in the year before they started their run.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm sure there was other guys on that roster that did it too, and that were on there for all 6 years. But the fact that it's Jaguar's only 6 seasons is nuts.
Well, that's it. That's only nuts. 6 years he's played in the CFL and 3 teams, 2 divisions. Like,
ridiculous.
I think it's amazing. So I don't know his contract status offhand, but maybe he will be able to leverage that in this offseason here. And
O'Day's going to give him $400K.
Hey, he always gets the playoff bonus checks if he keeps playing in those extra games. I think that's so cool.
You think he'd want to start? You think he'd want to start finishing second though, because then he gets more playoff games.
Yeah, so you play in the semifinal, the final, and the Grey Cup. Yeah, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers beating the BC Lions 28-20, advancing to their 3rd straight Grey Cup, looking to win 3 straight for the first time since those Edmonton teams in the late 70s and early 80s. Really here, the story is that the BC offense really couldn't get anything going until the 4th quarter. Mm-hmm. After the 1st quarter, I think they had 14 combined yards, but the BC defense, they kept them in it.
Oh yeah.
And that includes, and I know we mentioned on the pod last week, they need to limit Janarian Grant. They need to have a good special teams day, and that also didn't happen. Janarian Grant, 3 return touchdowns against the against the BC Lions this season. He's had an incredible year against them, but Winnipeg starts just like they've done so many times this year, and they meant business.
Mike Leggio missing a convert.
Yeah.
Don't know what we're talking about.
Dembski has the 40-yard play. It's Collaros to Schoen right off the bat, and then things get crazy. And we'll say that Winnipeg crowd was off the charts. They were loud, and I think it rattled Rourke, and I don't know if it was
and probably Rick Campbell. That last drive in the 4th quarter was embarrassing.
That was
Rick Campbell. And who's ever calling? It was Buck Pierce. No,
Max Simic is the OC for BC.
Yeah, Simic. Like that's such a bad look on that final drive.
Yeah, I don't know why you don't go into. We had over a minute, and it's said over
5 seconds,
over and over. As a CFL fan, the best part of the game is the clock at the end, and I know the sack from Alden Darby did throw them off, but we'll get to that.
We'll get there.
Because there was craziness in the first half, and I don't know if Rourke was thrown off by the crowd, the cold, the foot. There's a lot of factors in there, and hey,
Willie Jefferson, coat.
It's the playoffs only for the second game in his career in the playoffs, so you get it. In that environment in Winnipeg, it's not an easy place to play at all. So BC takes the 2-and-out after Winnipeg scores the opening score, and then Winnipeg blocks the punt. We go to commercial and we come back. It's still being looked at. Well, there you go. Roughing the kicker called on Winnipeg. It is BC ball again. So I tried to look for it in the rule book, but they were mentioning,
not in there.
Yeah, they were mentioning on the broadcast that even if the blocker touches the ball and hits the plant foot of the punter, it'll get roughing the kicker. That's what they mentioned on the broadcast, but I couldn't find it in the rule book either.
No, I searched and searched, couldn't find it. I don't know, maybe it's just they mentioned it was like player safety, so it could be a totally different issue, but you would think it would still be in there. Do I like it? Like I get what they're doing. I totally understand the rule.
Yeah.
I still think it's stupid.
Well, and look,
if I touch the ball, too bad.
I always think the defense is tough to play, and sometimes, like when a quarterback ducks and they make helmet to helmet, I'm like, come on, what's the guy supposed to do? I think one of the toughest things in football is to block a kick and not hit the kicker.
100%.
That is one of the most difficult things to pull off, and that's what happened here. So after that, BC still couldn't do anything on offense.
No. Let's talk about that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. I see where you're going.
They punted, and Janarian Grant fumbles it or touches it. BC ball. Look at that. A play later, Antonio Pipkin is in the end zone, and
I don't understand what Grant was doing there.
Yeah, neither do I.
The ball never bounced up, and he kept his hands up, and just let it hit his leg.
Yep.
It makes no sense. He looked like Bill Buckner.
He did. So I understand that. I know Winnipeg got the special teams touchdown, and this one was technically an offensive touchdown, but we'll chalk it up to the special teams on that one for recovery.
I was really hoping that Betts would get into the end zone, though.
He was pretty chirpy and chippy as the game went on here. So the Lions were only trailing 9-7 after the first quarter, despite only having 6 passing yards. And look, there was a lot of missed opportunities for that offense on BC, or defense, sorry, on BC as well. There were
they
2
dropped
or 3.
A lot of picks.
Yeah, and I guess those are why the DBs are playing defense and not offense. But
you said it, not me.
There were opportunities there for DBs to make plays, and they couldn't quite do it. Marcus Sales did intercept Zach Collaros in the end zone once, but that Lions defense could have had a few more picks.
Yeah, and I mean, Collaros multiple times it seemed, or not seen, but like multiple times in that first half, would give one of these as he walked back to the sidelines because he knew that he got lucky.
Yeah.
And I went both ways. Like the Bombers dropped a few as and didn't get the spots. Like, I mean, I don't know how much the weather has to do with that, with it football being a rock. And like you said, DBs can't catch. You said it. I did not.
Sorry, DBs.
Yeah, no. They've already got a hard enough life. But that pass to Claros, like Claros doesn't get tricked on that stuff. And like Suter pointed out, that Sales slips underneath. And I don't know how he gets there, or like how Claros decides to throw it there. Like Sales was there. So that almost looked like BC would maybe get some momentum from that and maybe be able to push downfield, and it just came out flat.
Yeah, that was
2-0 on the next drive.
That was the start of the fourth quarter. The Lions defense kept them in it and gave them a fighting chance right to the very end of this game. But I think one of the big factors here is that they couldn't get Butler going at all. Like, when I say at all, he had 0.7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
So there was no running game from the BC Lions. And I think the Lions have worked so hard this season to achieve balance with the running game. And last week, Butler had the ball 20 times. This week, it wasn't going to happen. They threw to him. He had 3 catches for 24 yards, but he had a costly fumble as well, just when you need to make some positive yards and at least keep the ball and have a sustained drive here. Butler was a non-factor, and the Bombers really limited him to absolutely nothing, and that put more pressure on Nathan Rourke and the Lions' passing attack.
Well, and that Butler fumble came directly after a 2-0 from the Bombers, and they punted. So it's just, kind of like another kick to the gut, because your defense made a stop. You've got a chance to. You're not out of this game by any point. Like, they were only down 2. But I mean, if you can get a lead, you're able to get them a little more involved. Now, that being said, yeah, you want to give them the ball 20 times, can you do that against this Bombers defense? And I think that was more of the issue.
We've seen this year teams have had success running on them more than in the past. Now their rushing defense was near the top, just like the past, but it was in the 80-yard a game range instead of like the 55-yard.
Yeah.
Which is still good. It's still incredible. Let me be clear there. And then, the second half starts. Now, the Bombers only had a 19-8 lead. It seemed like they could have had a bigger one, but the Lions were keeping them in it. The return touchdown from Janarian Grant helped out with that. And then the second half starts. Lions have a pretty nice completion to Keon Hatcher. He just steps out of bounds. And they settle for the field goal there to start the second half. And Winnipeg, follows that up with a 9-play, 70-yard touchdown drive.
5 minutes and 8 seconds.
And that's it. In the second half, I found that the Bomber offensive line really started controlling the pace of play, and they were doing really what they wanted to do on offense, and BC was having trouble stopping that. In the cold, it hurts so much more. It wears you out so much faster. And when those bruising offensive linemen are coming down on you,
who aren't wearing sleeves because they're psychopaths,
it tires you out. And Brady Oliveira, 20 carries, 130 yards on the day, 6.5 yards a carry. But I think Dakota Prukop's become one of those underrated players, I think, on the Bombers. Whenever he comes in, he's making plays all the time. He had 37 yards rushing.
Reminds you of another backup quarterback they had a little bit.
Yeah. He's an athletic guy. And Prukop kind of bounced around the CFL, but he's a very valuable part of the short yardage game that the Bombers have. And they might need him more in the Grey Cup.
Oh, what are you saying, Charlie? Zach said he's fine. The one thing we forgot to mention is on that touchdown drive.
Yeah, the extra
missed
point.
Convert. Terry Williams, first time ever in playoff history for the 2-point return. 126 yards. First time ever in playoff history, CFL playoff history.
I love
126 yards for 2 points. Like your return on investment's piss poor on that.
Have you seen the stat? That has to be one of maybe the longest 2-point play in CFL history.
I mean, you can only go 129.
Yeah, that's amazing. He was just gassed after that. So, the Lions were able to kind of limit the damage to themselves in the third quarter because of that 2-point play, the field goal. So it was. They only ended up losing like net 1 point in the third. So going into the fourth, they were still in it. It made sense in my head.
No, I get it.
Yeah. And then after that, Terry Williams ends up getting knocked out on a kickoff. So the Lions needed to kind of change their strategy. So you talk about the versatility of Keon Hatcher this season. He's playing in all the positions as a receiver, and now he's returning kicks, and I thought he did quite well returning kicks when he got called upon. He had to return
did not hurt them.
No, he had to return 4 punts, and he had an average of over 13 yards. That was pretty good. Yeah,
you'll take that every day. Talk about how they kind of like the net loss or whatever from that short yardage stuff by Adam Bighill, the turnover on downs, that just seemed really defeating.
Yeah.
When it was kind of like, man, they're just not going to get anything going.
It kind of felt like that. Yeah. And I thought it was a bad spot, but whatever. And you can't challenge them because it's never going to get
there's no point
overturned. But when you can't get the 1 yard you need or the 2 yards you need, and they were clearly struggling with the noise too. And
And it got worse.
Yeah. As the game went on, it got worse and worse and worse. You're right. That BC stop on third down, Butler can't get going. The offensive line is just bowling you over. But then really late in the game, about 4 minutes left, when Zach gets hit and looks like he's injured his ankle. And at that point, the Bombers are up 15. I'm thinking, well, it's probably not going to affect them this game. But it's going to be a factor going into this week, into the Grey Cup. He's limping around. He did try to come out, and he called it, and he went back off the field. That ankle is going to be something to watch in preparation for the Grey Cup.
Well, and I don't know. Like, we've seen Drew Brown start a game. We know he's capable. Do you want that issue to come, or do you want that to be a storyline? Probably not. You want it to be a distraction, right? It's going to be a storyline for sure, but you got to find a way to not make it a distraction. Whether or not you're shooting him up with something so he's not limping at practice and then figuring something out. He might have just rolled it. Maybe he didn't strain anything. Maybe he got lucky. It's just a day or two. We'll see. But the fact that they even sent him back out, I didn't like. Like, what's the point? You're not going to win. I don't think they win the Grey Cup with Drew Brown, like, starting. So why not just keep Collaros? Like, don't even let him stand up. Like, keep all the weight off of that thing. We'll figure it out. I didn't like how O'Shea was ready to throw him back in. That didn't make any sense to me. After he's getting it wrapped and he was visibly limping and in pain, it's like, what are you doing?
Now, I've had some pretty bad ankle roll-ups where sometimes the next day, a couple days later, it's like, wow, nothing happened. But that day is just terrible.
It's the worst.
Now, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but if it turns out to be a high ankle, that's something you don't want to hear. But
I would have Crohn's after all the Toradol I took.
I know how the Bombers are going to handle this. They're going to say no update, no comment.
Game time decision.
Yeah.
Probable.
I think so.
It'll be Tom Brady. Probable with shoulder for 15 years under belt. What are we doing?
Good luck getting any updates out of Mike O'Shea to all of the media descending on Regina. You'll try your best. It'll be entertaining. But it's just not going to happen.
But hey, at least you won't have to answer that stupid question from Terry Jones at the coaches' media conference. Now somebody else is going to ask it, but at least it's not Terry.
Yeah, I think we'll see. We'll see if somebody else asks that. The Lions also.
Let's hope Andrew doesn't get a media pass.
The Lions also had a touchdown scoring drive of their own in the fourth quarter, where oh boy, it looked like after that Alexander Hollands catch, Rourke was starting to feel it a little bit, starting to get a little bit more confidence there. And what a big play there. So they're within 8.
Which is still kind of like a 2-score game. Basically.
So the Lions defense makes the play that they need to make. They wouldn't, of course, you don't want to give up the first down, but they did, and it only took a minute off the clock. Yep. Then the Lions get the ball with a minute 35.
Yep.
And look, I know that sack on the first play threw things off, but that was some really bad clock management.
And I don't think it's on Rourke. It's not his fault. His coaches don't have his plays in for him. Like, there's no reason that there should not have been plays called. I know that you get sacked and you lose the 7 yards.
Yeah.
But you're in 3-down territory anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, 2nd and 17, you don't need to get all 17 back because you're going for it on 3rd down regardless. Like, it's just terrible preparation, terrible coaching, terrible decision making. And it just makes no sense. Like, the crowd got progressively louder.
Yeah.
And by the fourth quarter, it was evident even on TV, like, it was way too loud.
And when they know that they're causing havoc in the game, the fans are like, all right, cranking it up more.
Yeah, the fact that Rourke didn't have plays ready or anything like that, like he's a second-year guy, like he's not Ricky Ray. He's not a Peyton Manning who's going to be able to do all that at the line. They don't have all of that stuff yet. Like it's the coaching staff lost this game for BC because they had opportunities, and now I shouldn't say lost again. That last minute 35 is completely on the coaches, and I mean it's just really like it sucks because we talk about how Rourke is his talent and he's Canadian and we want to see him succeed, and then just looks inept. But it's not his fault.
Yeah, I don't think it was on him. Now, I realized they had 96 yards to go. So
but I mean, they lost 20, 25 seconds. I mean, there's 2 or 3 plays. That's like, I mean,
I think they could have had 2 or 3 more plays. Yeah. And if things go according to plan, Bombers would have something to say about this. But the final shot could have come from the 15 instead of the 50. And all of a sudden, anything can happen at that moment. And look, the Bombers controlled the ball for almost 35 minutes.
Richie Hall sending 7 guys on 1st and 10 was nuts.
Yeah. And
I love it.
Of course, they were untouched. And Richie Hall gets all the credit for calling a beautiful game here. He dialed up the pressure when he needed to. It was the perfect time. And the timing on it was great. Like these Bomber coaches, there were Bomber fans wanted him gone in 2018. Like
you're gonna have nobody in the block, and you're gonna have 6. Okay, and release the hounds.
And there it went. The Bombers had the ball for 34 minutes and 57 seconds, and they did force 2 interceptions from Nathan Rourke as well. Zach Collaros goes 14 of 20 for 178 yards, a touchdown and an interception. His best drive was the first drive of the game. Rourke does throw for 300. The accuracy was off, 20 of 37, 2 picks.
300 is not even news for him anymore.
No, 2 picks and a touchdown there, but Brady Oliveira rushing for 130. Nick Dembski was the Swiss Army knife we've seen. He was rushing the ball. He had 5 catches for 74 yards, the leading receiver for the Bombers, and they didn't need to do anything special. That's them. Blue Bomber football. When you know what you need to do to stop them, and when you know what the next play call is going to be, and you can't stop it, that's deflating for any team.
And we've seen that with the Bombers when they had Andrew Harris, even when they had Oliveira in for Andrew Harris when Harris was out. Like this offensive line just imposes its will. Like, you're not going to be bigger than them.
No.
You're not going to be able to outman them. You're not going to, you're going to lose that battle 9 times out of 10. And, we're going to run it right at you. And good luck. Like, Purifoy comes down from the safety spot, untouched, gets to Oliveira. Oliveira overpowered him.
Yeah.
And got an extra 3 or 4 yards.
The guy's got legs like stovepipes.
He's like Sidney Crosby. Just big.
Exactly.
Yammer Yager protecting the puck. But I mean, you know what's coming, and you just get run over. How you do that for 3 hours? That sounds like fun.
In -6 or whatever it was. Yeah. James Butler, 6 carries for 4 yards.
Yeah,
man, 3 catches for 24 yards. The leading receiver, Keon Hatcher, 7 catches, 133 yards. Dominic Rhymes, only the 1 catch, 42 yards, and Brian Burnham
and
also.
That play made me why are you throwing to Rhymes in triple coverage?
Yeah. Oh, it was. I'm sure Rourke will look back at the play and he will. He'll
probably
think about it.
Tell his teammates about it when he's sitting on the practice squad or on the bench in the NFL next year.
That's the question. Close. That's the question for Nathan Rourke. Where does he play in 2023? And we'll see. I know there has been talk about the Lions kind of wondering if they can go to the CFL and try to get him out of this rookie deal and pay him more because
He's got 1 year left, right?
yeah, at his rookie deal, like,
well, whenever the fiscal year is up, that's when you sign him to his extension.
Yep.
And give him a big signing bonus, like whatever. You're gonna have to figure it out. Now, you do that, you better leave enough money on the table for the other 50 or 60 guys you're gonna need throughout the year.
Because the Lions are just coming out of a situation where their quarterback was eating up a little too much of the salary cap that really caused problems elsewhere on the roster. But overall for the Lions, this year, many had them picked last in the West. Many thought they were crazy going into the year with Nathan Rourke as their starting quarterback. And here we are, November 13th, and everyone was basically proven wrong.
Yeah, Neely.
They've got a lot to build off of going forward. TJ Lee.
As long as they can get him to stick around.
Yeah. TJ Lee had 10 tackles in this one.
That's
Jordan
not what
Williams.
you want from your defensive backfield.
No. Jordan Williams, the linebacker, had 7. Matthew Betts had 4 tackles and 1 sack.
And a fumble recovery.
2 sacks for the Bombers, 1 from Jackson Jeffcoat and 1 right in the fourth quarter on the last drive from Alden Darby.
So you could argue that was a half sack for him and Big Hill.
And Darby was just acquired a month ago from the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
But when they made that deal, like we were like, well, this just basically solidified. Like Winnipeg basically gives up nothing. And
he can't get on the roster with Hamilton, and here he is back in Winnipeg.
Which makes no sense. You're dressing Dane Evans, and you can't find a spot for Alden Darby.
Winston Rose has an interception for the Bombers. Desmond Lawrence does as well. Willie Jefferson a knockdown, and there he is again. Alden Darby, 3 pass knockdowns in this one. Jake Thomas, a fumble recovery, and yeah, you're right. Matthew Betts, a fumble recovery as well in this one. That's another question. Vernon Adams Jr., where's his future take him in 2023?
Don't say it.
Saskatchewan?
We already tried it.
I don't know where VA is going to end up.
That's the thing. Like, if you're Saskatchewan, you cannot go out and spend big money on a quarterback. That's not your issue.
Yeah, exactly.
But does Jeremy O'Day know that? I don't know.
This episode of Two and Out brought to you by Connect First Credit Union.
Do you ever feel like just a number? A digit, a denominator, a decimal, another cog in the big bank machine, waiting on hold, online, never on time, and always on your dime. Like your worth is only calculated by your net worth. In a world full of numbers, it's nice to know there's a place where you're not one. Connect First Credit Union. Bank on a brighter future.
The matchup is set for the 109th Grey Cup. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers taking on the Toronto Argonauts. Is that right? This has never happened in the Grey Cup since the Mud Bowl in the 50s?
Yep.
But here we go. Ryan Dinwiddie coaching for the Argos against the team he started at quarterback in the Grey Cup in 2007. Andrew Harris playing against the team in the Grey Cup from his hometown that he felt disrespected by after the 2021 season. Hey, take it for what you will, man, but
there's so many good storylines.
There is.
This week. Now we got more. We have Zach's ankle.
Oh.
Right? The Argos are 6-0 in their last 6 Grey Cups. Winnipeg's looking for the 3-peat. Andrew Harris. You have the Dinwiddie angle if you want to go there. And Oh, and you could probably even go with how terrible of a coach he is when it comes to clock management and challenges. Like, there's some really good narrative. And I mean, of course, with Toronto being in it, you never know what TSN's going to say. Because when Jack Campbell was a Leaf, he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then when he signed with the Oilers, oh, wow, there's a lot of warts in his game. It's like, what are you talking about? And it turns out they were right. But
well, and you know what? Zach Collaros is starting against the team that he broke into the Canadian Football League with.
And won a Grey Cup, but that's the backup.
Yeah, 2012, the 100th Grey Cup. Yeah. Zach Collaros was a Toronto Argonaut. Of course, the great Ricky Ray is the starter of note in that Grey Cup game. We got a lot of fun stuff to talk about this week, the CFL awards, and who knows what could come out of Grey Cup week. So later this week, we'll be back with our 109th Grey Cup preview. Hey, thanks for pressing play. We love getting the playoff episodes out as soon as possible, so you can yell at us about our takes and all that.
You can yell at Travis. I'll just mute you.
You can rate, review, and subscribe to Tune It Out on your favorite podcatcher. And hey, subscribe, like, and leave a comment on YouTube as well. Talk to you soon to get you ready for the Grey Cup.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.